In Houston, we put over 150,000 people on the road to self-sufficiency, and I'll tell you how we did it. It used basic management principles employed every day by people who know how to get things done. We clearly defined each task, set priorities, found the best possible person and organization to put on a team in charge of that task, measured results every single day, held people accountable, and daily changed responsibilities or tactics in order to improve performance. We did that every single day, weeks after weeks, month after month. The results? Well, let me just give you one example. Rick Noriega's here. See, Rick is a friend of mine. We were going to go out to dinner one night. He'd just come back from running a base camp as a reserve colonel in Afghanistan. I said we had another job to do. At our convention center, we canceled a quilt convention, and we needed to be the new home for thousands of Americans. This is what you saw when you walked through that convention center 36 hours after that conversation with Colonel Noriega. 6,000 comfortable sleeping spots with some privacy, an entire laundromat, a 24-hour hospital and pharmacy with 150 attending physicians, nurseries, libraries, job placement agencies, and banks. And finally, there was a cafeteria that could serve over 5,000 people that was staffed entirely by professionally trained, by volunteers, professionally trained volunteers from our synagogues, temples, mosques, and churches. That's the kind of results that we got in Houston, Texas. We lived the values of our faith. We lived the values of our Constitution, in which no American is more important than any other American. And we treated our fellow Americans as if they were family, something that scientists now confirm they are. Right? One day I stopped by an intensive 60-hour class we had for first-time job seekers, or people who economists put in this category called underemployed. They wanted to further their lives. They wanted to make more than just a bare minimum wage, and there was strategies to do so and job skills to do so, and some training on some things like basic computer literacy. A young man raised his hand to speak. Mayor White, he said, "I've lived all my 20 years in New Orleans. I never thought anyone in government cared. Here people really care whether I get a job and are doing things to help. I've just been told when I graduate there will be a job for me. So something good has come from something very bad." A longtime Houston community leader took me aside 2 months ago, and this is what she said. "They told us that we turned a corner with the civil rights laws, but I never thought most folks had changed on the inside. Then I went down and I volunteered at one of the shelters, and I saw hundreds of Islamic Pakistani Americans who were working side by side with a large congregation of several hundred Southern Baptist conservatives, and they were feeding thousands of people who looked like me, treating them as they would their best friends, even though they had never met. All I saw was Americans helping Americans, and I had seen the day that I had waited for in my lifetime. Thank you all for celebrating this great American virtue of courage. These days, we need to be reminded of both dimensions of courage, undertaking the daunting task as well as advocacy of the unpopular. So-called leaders today think that courage means not admitting error sometimes, when each of us in our own personal lives knows that some of the greatest courage is taking responsibility for mistakes, right? So-called leaders today think that calling for sacrifice means that you sacrifice the physical well-being and environment of the next generation, rather in order to avoid cutting consumption and making hard choices today. Those who instead respond to President Kennedy's call for service and sacrifice in his inaugural can take heart from the words about courage in the scripture of my faith from St. Paul, who said that from sacrifice comes endurance, from endurance comes character, and from character comes hope, and hope will never disappoint us. Thank you very much.